Oh, happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to my show where it really is okay to not be okay. I'm Rae Bonney. I'm a qualified counsellor, workplace mental health specialist, not to mention a very dedicated and an oftentimes enthusiastically disruptive men's issues advocate. It's very rare, but I do dare. With you for the next hour with my mental health roadshow in its reflective stages. I'm back every Monday for the foreseeable future. And as always, we'll unwrap one of the greatest gifts going around, and that is people. Layer by layer, we explore the thoughts, experiences, achievements and challenges of ordinary people bound to inspire the best you, at the same time acknowledging that it really is okay to not be okay. Now, it's the first week of March, and as my son Rory told me the other day, the leaves are now crunchy and have holes in them. He prefers his green and fresh. What's your leaf preference, I wonder? Anyway, back in 2015, on a more serious note, 2 men died, one to prostate cancer and the other to suicide. Patrick and Nathan were both in their very early 40s, not famous nor particularly well known by superstar standards, but they were very well loved and adored by their mates. And part of the grief and loss journey experienced by this group of caring and considerate men, Travis Strong, Scott Eccleston, Stewart Jonson, Michael Fung, Jeremy Kruse, Mark Delaney and Glenn Hull established a not-for-profit initiative to honour their legacy, to raise awareness of men's health issues and raise funds to go toward assisting Australian prostate cancer research and Black Dog Institute with their respective research, treatment and support programs for men's health issues. Today I'm speaking with one of the White Owl founders, Travis Strong. Welcome to the show, Travis.
Thank you for having me, Rae. It's great to be here.
It was a big intro, wasn't it?
It was very, very impressive.
When I'm writing these intros, usually on a Sunday evening, accompanied by a glass of red wine, I get so enthusiastic about what we're turning up for today. And as I'm reading, I think, gee, Rae, you could have cut that down by about a minute.
You've actually done very well, because when I do the intro for White Owl, it usually goes for a lot longer than that. So
right.
I might borrow your notes.
How did I go?
Very good, very good.
Now, you and I met not that long ago, but I think time has elapsed, so it was probably a few months. And given my work in the men's issues space, one of my community people recommended that we catch up because of your interest in men's health issues as well. And it so happened that I had already heard of White Owl, and you guys have made quite a footprint already in, 3 years? Almost?
Just a little over 3 years now.
Yes.
So it's getting bigger and bigger. It's getting a bit of a life of its own now. We've got good fellowship through social media. We've got a couple of corporate backers, and I think what we've found is that the message that we're trying to get out into the community is really resonating with a lot of people. There are a lot of men struggling out there, and I think having a vehicle where people can come, and join the movement, I guess, and start talking about it has been really beneficial. So, yeah, sky's the limit, I think.
Well, given, Travis, that there's about 5 billion not-for-profit organisations here just in Australia, and many of those, or not that many actually compared to women's issues, but some men's issues, we've also got, Movember and a few others. What is it about White Owl that's capturing such attention?
I think it's the fact that people can resonate with the story. We've got a deep personal connection, having lost 2 friends to suicide and prostate cancer, and at a young age. So I think in also we've got a lot of corporate, so we're working our networks really well as well. So we're tapping people to get involved who either knew of Patrick and Nathan or knew them, and that's taken us a fairly long way in a short period of time. So we're branching out into schools now. I mean, I'm on radio today, so it's pretty cool that and I think, yeah, as I said, we keep finding that it is, the message is resonating and getting a lot of traction, which is great to see.
Is it resonating with more men than women, do you think? Or
no, I think the last couple of years it's probably been equally attended functions by men and women. I think it's important too that that men have a platform or a voice in this area, but I think the women in their lives play a particular role too in getting the men talking, getting them proactively looking after themselves, seeking help if they need it.
Yes.
That's the message we're trying to get out there.
And given that we're talking about 2 very distinct men's issues, and I know that a lot of the advocacy I do, and part of the challenge is to try and have people recognise that men also matter. But prostate cancer and suicide, two very different issues, but impact men so greatly, not just here in Australia, but globally. How do you manage both issues, I guess, and message correctly on both?
Well, I think both of them are wanting men to need to be proactive in looking after themselves. So whether or not, if it's prostate cancer, it's going and getting a test, whether it be an examination or a simple blood test. Likewise with mental health, I mean, I think there's been a real step change in the mental health discussion around acknowledging that it can be, depression and anxiety are illnesses, they're not weaknesses, and the fact that we've got to get men talking and going and seeking the support programs and treatments that are available to them. So I think that the messaging is very much around actively promoting men and their physical and mental well-being, and that ties in, I think, to mental health and to prostate cancer.
I can't help myself here, Travis, to butt in my 20 cents worth around suicide, especially male suicide, and the relationship to mental health issues. And it's not that commonly known that many male suicides are not related to a mental health issue. In fact, are more related to a situationally distressing moment. So men who've lost access to their children through separation, men who've lost access to finance, lost their job, whatever it might be that a male is experiencing, quite often that can end in suicide, not at all being related to a mental health issue. However, when the man is showing visible signs of distress, the opportunity then to step in to say you need to go to a GP and then be diagnosed with depression and then medicated is sometimes a very alarming cocktail.
Yeah, and I think it's, six men on average take their life in Australia every day, and not all, as you said, not all of them are depressed or anxious, but depression and anxiety certainly heightens the risk, and I guess that's where the work that Black Dog Institute comes in. That's really important around the education and breaking down some of the misnomers around mental health, and that's why we're supporting them as our charity partner. So,
yes, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show, but it is a great alignment, I guess, and they do fantastic work. And quite often, you don't hear a lot about Black Dog. They're not right out there. However, behind the scenes, the research and the changes that they are making, I think, especially in the corporate world, you hear a lot about them in the corporate world, that quiet work that they're doing. So a really good partnership for you guys.
Yeah, it's going really well. We've been supporting them this will be the second year, and I know they're very appreciative of the efforts we're going to, and we're very appreciative of the work they do too. Yeah, I'm
sure they are. Now, you knew about Nathan's diagnosis. Patrick's diagnosis. Which would have been difficult enough because he died of prostate cancer. There was a bit of a lead up for that. But Nathan, you didn't have any lead up to that. And you told me a story only just the other day about the moment that you found out.
Yeah. I mean, look, Nathan and I were good friends. We weren't best buddies, but a couple of the guys who were involved in Whitehall were, and one of them was a close friend of mine, Stewart, and he rang me up with the news. I was over in Adelaide for work, and he told me the story, and it was, like any time you get that kind of news, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was just about to go in and do a presentation to about 40 staff in the office over in Adelaide, and I literally got the call 3 minutes before I went in, but it was timely because in the sense that I went in and then was able to share and recount the news that I just heard, and was really encouraging people if they were struggling to make sure that they are seeking the help that they need. I'm lucky that I work for a company that is very supportive of and very much aware of the role that they play in providing I guess a workplace that is sympathetic with mental health, is supporting people, and is understanding of the issues. So I felt as though I could easily relay that story to the group, and I think it's a few of them came up and said that it made a real impact, which is a shame that had to happen. But but it's about getting people feeling comfortable talking about that sort of thing.
Was that group predominantly men?
Look, the company I work for is probably 70% men. So,
yes. So in your room, that 40 people that you were addressing, give a bit of a shout out to Oricon, because in my space, they're also very well known to be amazing pioneers in creating environments that support mental health in the workplace, and being a huge national global organisation. I don't know how that resonates globally, but certainly in Australia, we hear a lot of really, really good things. But when you were telling me that story, you said, you turned up into this room crying. Yeah. And that's, not an intrinsically blokey thing to do in Australia. But how did that resonate?
Well, I think that's part of the step change, isn't it? I mean, it's, I think men, certainly in the circles that I mix in, are feeling a lot more comfortable about talking about issues when they're struggling. I mean, I had back surgery last year and was really battling there for a while. Both my parents were battling cancer at the time, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And, I just rang up a few of my mates and said, look, I am struggling. They came round, we chatted. I felt a hell of a lot better, and I think that's an important step change. That if you are battling, that that you get the networks around you, reach out and get that help you need. So I don't think anyone was worried that I was crying. They were clearly concerned about me, which they would be in that circumstance. But it was a very challenging time.
There's an example of you having a physical health issue that can very, very quickly turn to a mental health issue as well. And then also on from that, describing a company like Aurecon who create an environment that supports how people are feeling. So it's quite seamless. And not everybody has that opportunity or privilege to be part of organisations that genuinely do support you when you're not okay. Yeah.
And look, it's a leadership role. And I think from the CEO down at Aurecon, it's great to see the leadership that they're taking in working in this space. I mean, Aurecon's got, in Australia and New Zealand's got over 3,000 employees, 70% male. And they've got a Mind Matters program that they've set up, where they have a committee that promotes mental health training amongst their line managers, promoting flexible work, which is role modelled by senior leaders in the business. They've embarked on a very aggressive campaign to get as many senior leaders trained up to be mental health first aiders. There's 108 at last count. I know there's more training coming up. So, that's they're walking the talk.
Yes.
And I think that's important. I mean, a lot of people talk about wanting to make a difference in this space, but being involved in an organisation like Aurecon that's really doing something about it and
investing as well.
Exactly.
It's my space that I work in. So many times it's a tick box exercise where we don't have a budget to support it. And even going on to individuals who might be seeking support for their own mental health will say, no, I'd prefer to put all the money to my child's education, but I can't afford to spend any money on myself. So I think we should be really looking to, number one, the government supporting, perhaps making mental health support more affordable for individuals, but also encouraging organisations to make it almost mandatory to be investing in people's well-being, because we invest so much in physical health and well-being, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're old enough, but 30 years ago when we introduced OH&S, it was like, F that, like as if that's ever going to happen. And I was talking about this the other day. I was presenting at the MCG, and was looking out onto the pitch, and there was 5 guys out there, all in their high vis. I think they were clipping the grass with toenail scissors. I don't know what they were doing. It didn't look particularly dangerous.
It's very important grass, though. Right? So.
It's hallowed, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But they were wearing the high vis because that's the expectation now. That's that's the minimum requirement to keep safe physically. So why aren't we doing it mentally?
Yeah, that's right. And look, and Aurecon, for as long as I can remember, has had an employee assistance program where people can, reach out to a support network outside of the work. And look, it's great to see that level of support. And I know it gets used frequently. So whether or not people are comfortable coming and speaking to mental health first aiders, it's different to different people. Some people want to go anonymously. Some people want to open up to their line manager. Someone would like to talk to someone who's completely independent of the situation. There's no right or wrong. As long as there's multiple options that are available to the individual, they'll be able to make the right choice.
Have you been to see my presentation, Travis? Because you're exactly right. The options. Yeah. It's not about one-stop shop or one fix. It's those options. So when EAP or Employee Assistance Program doesn't work for you, then perhaps something else like Heads Up. And Heads Up is a program that we designed and delivered at Beyond Blue, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago now, but it's an online resource that is completely clickable, printable, downloadable, watchable, but it's everything you need to know about mental health, how to manage your own expectations and the expectations of others. But it's very, very comprehensive. And what I love about it's written by Australia for Australians, and we are culturally quite unique. And, you know, I think it really resonates well down here. So anyone that's listening, get out your biro, www.headsup.org.au. Check it out.
Yeah. I mean, something for me personally, I mean, I've started to meditate in the last 12 months. I mean, that's something I never thought I'd do.
Really?
But, you know, that works for me. I tried it once and it worked. I don't do it every day, but you know, if things get too overwhelming, it's great. There's some great apps out there that you can just download.
What's your form of meditation?
I just listened. Well, the one I was listening to last week was the audio of a thunderstorm.
Wow.
It was very, very cathartic. It was very, very nice.
Do you like cross your legs in
no,
that
no,
way?
No, I'll just lay down on my bed and listen to it. It was great. So, that's what, like you said, Rae, it's about options, and it's about getting people comfortable exploring those options and what works for them. Yes.
And I think when we're guiding people into those options, it's very, very important to remember not to tell people what to do. What works for you may not work for me, because Travis, honestly, if you suggested meditation to me, I'd roll my eyes and go, I can't sit. It's hard enough to sit still for an hour here at the radio station. However, you know, going back to the EAP too, the Employee Assistance Program, if you should connect with a counsellor or a therapist that does not resonate with you, it's okay not to re-engage, but really, you know, trust that, you know, maybe re-engaging with a different therapist would be okay. So it's okay to not have that connection with somebody, and it's not rude to disconnect. So please go back and try it again.
Cool.
Now, you also told me the other day when we were having our chat that you had probably an early entree into recognising mental health issues in your own family, although didn't know particularly. But your own father, who had quite a blossoming corporate career, all of a sudden had a life change.
Yeah, he just, you know, now you would be a lot better equipped to handle it. And, you know, I was only 4, so I'm only recounting stories that I've heard from my parents. But, you know, Dad just couldn't go back into the city anymore, and, you know, went back. He was a very good tennis player, became a tennis coach, enjoyed the outdoors, and had a very successful career tennis coaching. But you know, if you think back to the early 70s and the lack of support networks that would have been available to him at the time, you know, he must have leaned very heavily on my mother and his family. But he got through it. He's still here today, and he's great. So
I think he's listening in now, isn't he?
He may be.
He may be. Big
If
shout out.
he can get the live feed going, I don't know how he's going to go dealing with that. But
what is your dad's name?
Ian.
Hello, Ian. Welcome to the show. And your mum, is she listening in too?
Yeah, Jan will be listening.
Jan and Ian. That's great. But you know, even back in the 70s, if we're thinking, I mean, I talk a lot about. Well, I don't. I respond a lot to things like male privilege and the patriarchy and all that kind of jazz. And I think about men, especially back in that age, where the onus of, you know, responsibility was certainly on men. So for your dad, you know, having 2 small children and a wife back in the 70s would look a lot different to what it does now in terms of his responsibility just to suck it up and get on with it. So how fortunate to have a family and an infrastructure that allowed him to make that transition that ensured his safety and security, and also probably his life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no, it
sounds very seamless though, going from, you know, a corporate life to tennis coaching.
Yeah, well, he did it very well. So and he loved it. So, you know, we had to drag him off the court when he retired. He didn't want it to end.
Really? So he doesn't still give tips or advice?
No, advice absolutely, but not coaching himself anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a good story. But again, I know from your story that didn't happen overnight. That took a long time for him to be able to make that change. But, you know, so many men, or actually so many people, don't have that opportunity or don't have the infrastructure or support to be able to, number one, recognise when they're not okay, but also knowing that it is okay to not be okay. In fact, that's what my show's called today.
Very good.
It's okay not to be
apt.
okay. Now we're going to go to a little break, and when we come back we're going to talk more about White Owl and what your plans are and where next you want to take it and how people can become great supporters of it. And I'm sure you're going to design some paraphernalia as well, aren't you? T-shirts and things, because everyone loves an owl, don't they?
It's a great logo. Developed by our own Glenn Hull and his wife Susan. So yeah, it's been great.
Oh, okay. So they're designers, are they?
They are. Discover Me Design.
Oh, is there anything available already, or?
We did. Well, we're looking at doing caps, maybe some beanies this year. We did stubby holders last year, but they've all gone. So
really,
we need to get a range of merchandise up and running this year. So I'm open to suggestions.
Oh, watch out for that. Now, White Owl, where does that come from?
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually. Nathan was affectionately known as the polar bear when for all the years we knew him, and Patrick had a love of owls, and in actual fact the night before he passed away, a white owl came and landed on the balcony where he was staying. And he passed away the next day. So some nice synergies between Patrick's love of owls and Nate's
polarising
love of the Arctic. So yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that just gave me a bit of a shiver up my spine, because I mean, owls are so symbolic, aren't they? Everyone can sort of relate something to an owl.
Yeah.
I saw an owl in the daytime once.
That's rare.
Yes, I was babysitting. I wasn't at all. I was house sitting a rather beautiful establishment down on the Mornington Peninsula, and I was out. It had one of those driveways with the electric gates that you drive 5 minutes and you still haven't reached the two houses on the property, the guest house and the real house. And there in the dirt, I could see some little mound. It looked like a log, but it was actually an owl, and it had its wings splayed in the dirt, and it was just staring at me. I'll never forget it.
He's probably wondering what he was doing there, to be honest. Middle of the day.
I hope he was all right. Now, going back to White Owl, and you're just over 3 years into it now. Not that I place a lot of significance on how much money people are raising, because it's what you do that's the most important thing. But in a few short years, last year you raised in excess of $70,000. Yeah,
$78,000 net, which was great. So it's about $112,000 all up now.
Yeah.
And we're 100% volunteer based. I mean, we're all full-time workers and we just do it in the spare time. So our admin costs are less than 5%, which is great. So that means everything we raise gets flowed straight back through to the charity partners. So yeah, we're pretty proud of that. It's come a long way in a short period of time.
Bunch of blokes.
Yes, we've got Kate Hatton, who's joined us this year, who's from the Australian Prostate Cancer Centre, who's actually joined our committee on an official basis. So we're diversifying.
Yes.
Look, a good bunch of blokes, and all very passionate about making a difference in this space.
I love just about every day of my life reminding people that men do show their emotions, men do seek help, and men do cry as well, and men really care. And this is a really great example. And in fact, in my insomnia moments, last night I was watching a show called, it's an online dating show. So basically people, sit on their couches with their mates and they do the swiping and then eventually go on a date. And there was this guy and his mate, and they'd selected a girl for his friend to go on the date. And when he got there, he sort of phoned into his mate. He was a bit nervous, waiting for her to turn up. And when they hung up the phone, how they hung off from each other was, "I love you too."
Beautiful.
And I thought, wow, guys do talk like that, don't they?
They do, absolutely. And quite often I'll greet a mate with a hug rather than a handshake. Now it's just normal now.
Is that a change since you've been pioneering in this space, or?
That's probably evolved. But I just think people are getting more comfortable. I think men are getting a lot more comfortable at showing their emotions.
What about your dad, Ian? Was given that he was transitioning as well from one life to another, did he show change as well?
No, absolutely. I mean, he was a very loving father, and and still is. Great with the grandkids. He's one of the most caring individuals you'll meet. So, and probably very thankful that he's still here and being able to make such a contribution to our lives as well.
Yeah. Lucky Jan.
Absolutely.
Hang on to him, Jan.
Yeah.
He sounds like a good one. Now, you're developing some really strong partnerships through White Owl, and you've mentioned Black Dog and the Prostate Cancer Institute as well. But you also have lead-ins to the AFL too, don't you?
Yeah, we've got some really good corporate support now, and I think that's really important. What we have found when we got into this space is how competitive it is. So you've really got to be able to have a strong message and get people that are going to come on the journey with you. So we're very lucky to have Oricon and Marsh as what we term gold sponsors, who are 12-month partners.
Yes, Marsh are in insurance.
Yes, yeah, and that's who Nathan used to work for. So it's great that they've got on board and supporting us as well.
Yeah.
And then we've got the likes of Smartline and Chubb and Aon that are also involved, and then we've got a whole host of what we term our bronze partners that just give us a little bit of money to kick us along and enable us to put on some events and buy things like banners and things like that. So I think Owls, yeah. So I think we've got
been giving away free white owls.
No, well, you might be setting us up here for a whole new stream of merchandising here, Ray. But yeah, that's really important to them, and probably in the next couple of weeks we'll embark on quite an ambitious goal to try and get to 100,000 this year, which is a 28% increase on last year. Through a lot of that is through corporate support opportunities.
Yes.
So we've got our flyer that's sort of in the final production stages, and we'll obviously promote that through our website and our social media. But it'd be great to get some more corporate partners involved.
But even just turning up to the event.
Yeah, huge.
Do the maths, people. This is a really, really great cause where you can really learn something, make a difference, and start resonating these messages. But you also get really nice dinner, a bit of dancing.
Well, the dancing usually happens afterwards.
Yeah.
So the event's on the 23rd of June this year. So this is the third time we've done it. And Eddie had amazing supporters of ours that chip in the room for free and allow us to make them.
Now, that is 2 days before my birthday.
Oh, there you go.
So I can probably make it, yes.
If you're into it. Look, it's at a footy game, obviously.
Yes.
It's at the North Melbourne Kangaroos and Western Bulldogs. But
is that significant for some reason?
Look, North Melbourne, Nathan was a very... and it all started because Nathan was a North Melbourne fan and Patrick was a Carlton fan, and we saw that there was a Saturday night game between the two and rang both the clubs and rang Etihad, and that's how it all started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, North Melbourne and Carlton don't get those... high-profile games anymore while they're down the bottom of the ladder a little bit, but that could change. That can change.
Oh gosh, yeah. We look at our last two premierships. Who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. I mean, look, my partner, for example, can't stand football, but she always has come along with a bunch of girlfriends, and it's a great night. It's there's door prizes and a silent auction, a few speeches, good food, good drink. A few wines, and everyone has a great time, and there's always good energy in the room too, because we've created this legacy for Nathan and Patrick. Their families come along,
yes,
and they're really embracing of the concept as well. So it's a really nice night for them to get together with friends and family too, and celebrate their lives, as well as raising some money and some awareness for the charity partners.
Must be quite emotional.
Yeah, no, it's been fun.
Yeah. Who's can you name who the keynote speaker will be this year?
Tiffany Cherry has been our MC for the last 2 years,
yes.
So highly likely, depending on her media commitments, that she'll be able to join us again. But we'll get someone to come. We usually get someone like Nathan Thompson, who was ex-North Melbourne Hawthorn player, who had a well-documented battle with depression during his football years. He came last year, and there wasn't a dry on their house. He was amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll get a high-profile speaker to come along, but so you have to watch the website and our social media channels to get that announcement. But hopefully in the next month we'll be able to advise who they'll be.
Something to look forward to. Now, given that you, again, 3 years in, has there been any significant moments, stories that you've heard that have resonated as a result of the work that you're doing?
Well, look, the charity partners in particular, and this is where this year we're going down very much down a tangible benefits path. So with the Australian Prostate Cancer Centre, the last couple of years we've actually funded new equipment to be purchased into the to support the clinic that they run down there in North Melbourne. So seeing the benefits, and we've gone for a number of tours of their facility, and they're always very proud to show off what we've purchased, and then the exercise physician will come out and say this row has made such an impact on the guys that are recovering from prostate cancer surgery, to be able to get their physical movement back.
That sounds really painful if I think about the surgery and then think about getting on a rowing machine.
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of lag time between the surgery and the and the rower, but I think that's where it's been really good. So I mean, this year we're really focusing on two initiatives with our charity partners. So with Australian Prostate Centre, we're putting our money towards a bus. It's a regional bus initiative, which is great. So they're actually decking out the bus with clinical staff and physicians, and they're going around to regional centres where men can come in and get tested. They're running training seminars for GPs, so they become more aware as to what the latest treatments and methods are for identifying and then treating prostate cancer.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I know some of the fear and trepidation around men going for a test around prostate cancer goes back to the barbaric age of intervention, but it's not like that now, is it?
No, I mean, I think the examination can still is part of the regime, but I mean a simple blood test at your local GP can. Yeah,
but that's the first stage of testing, isn't it? So I think that's important for men to know that, just going to your GP, if as a matter of how often should somebody be tested?
Look, I'm not an expert, but
you are, because you're the white owl.
Well, that's right. But if you look back to, I remember when I used to go and see because my father's a prostate cancer survivor, and
gosh, Ian, what have you done in your life?
Fairly torrid. But so I used to go to my GP, and I'd say, look, I need to get a blood test. It's in my family, and he'd say, no, not until after 50. Well, Patrick was diagnosed at 39.
Yes.
So all of a sudden it became, all right, well, we'll probably need to bring the age level. So, I mean, I would have thought anyone over 40 now, if you haven't had a test, you should.
Is it a hereditary thing, do you know?
I'm not sure, no.
Yeah. But given Ian has been through it, then I guess you would be more mindful.
Certainly more mindful, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought, and look, to be honest, I mean, if it wasn't for Patrick, I probably wouldn't have got a test.
Yes.
I mean, my doctor probably wouldn't have been advised to have a test, but so I think you need to learn from previous mistakes. I mean, who knows what might have happened to Patrick if they picked it up earlier.
Well, I really don't think it hurts people once you just go in, like you take your car in for a service and get it, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but just to get the once over, just to make sure everything's okay, is probably sage advice.
It's a great peace of mind, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, especially if you've got a family. I mean, they want you around. A simple.
Do they?
Yeah, well,
I think so.
But I think just as you said, just that peace of mind. Just get yourself checked out, and
And it's not as invasive as you might think. And given that you guys are advocating for prostate cancer and for suicide prevention, it's the same thing with your mental health. It plays hand in hand. Physical and mental, they're one relationship. So if, think about what it feels like being you rather than what might happen to you is a good place to start. Because if it doesn't feel good, get it checked out.
Yep, absolutely.
So in terms of the longer term goals with White Owl, I know that every year, because you're all having your own careers and families at the same time as putting this thing together, which looks on the night like the most glamorous event, but I know you're all sort of pulling bits and pieces.
We still laugh about how we even got that first event up and running in 4 months. It was incredible. So it's harder now because we know all the potential pitfalls and challenges that may be presented. But
do you get feedback though that it helps you drive towards doing something different or better?
We did a post-event survey last year, which gave us some good advice that we'll adopt this year. So whether or not this format continues on, that's open for discussion. We have an absence at the moment of a long-term strategic vision, but we know that we need to get that done because this is the third year that we've done this format. look, why people keep turning up. I mean, if we can fill it again with 300 people and raise the 100,000 that we're targeting, people will vote with their feet. That's the biggest form of flattery is getting that repeat business. So, we've got a lot of businesses now on board. We know that in the insurance industry, which is the industry that Nathan came from, it's almost like they're night and nights now. All the insurers, whether it be Allianz or Zurich or JLT, they all get together and bring people together at this event, which is fantastic. And that's a great thing for the insurance industry, and it's a great that we can support those charity partners at the same time.
It's interesting that you speak about insurance, and I possibly am speaking out of school a little, but when we look at insurance and life insurance, for example, and people that you have mental health issues or have possibly attempted suicide or even survived prostate cancer, they may not get the best level of attention from insurers. Are Marsh addressing any of that, or you can't speak about that?
Not my area, unfortunately, Ray, but I'll pass it on to the guys in White Owl that are probably better equipped to answer that than I am. Straight bat.
Everyone else is thinking about it, though.
Yeah.
So for you also managing your role at Oricon, what in fact is your role at Oricon?
That's a very good question. It's
you don't know?
No, I do know. Well, I look after their data and telecommunications business. I'm what's called a client director. So all our very valued clients in the data and telecommunications space, being Telstra and Ericsson and Amazon and the like, they all fall under my portfolio that I manage. Yeah.
Which is people.
A lot of people, probably over 500 in the group. So a lot of people.
Do you find now, because you do have this quite visible footprint in the mental health and also physical health space, that people come to you more often to disclose what might be going on for them?
Marginally. I think, look, what I have found, obviously, the work that White Owl does with Oricon being a gold partner, we do a lot of morning teas to raise awareness, and we do a lot of chats and a lot of social media advocacy work. So I do find that a lot more people are stopping me in the corridors and talking more about White Owl and where can they help and how can they support, and the things we're doing are really good. So probably not more around the confiding in me, but more about support and reassuring that we're on the right track and that we are making a difference within the workplace. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah.
I found that a lot over the last 12 months in particular.
Because your initiatives do spread further than just the event that happens once a year. And I know that you were down at Yarra Valley Anglican School is it Ringwood or Croydon?
Yeah.
Croydon? Having a morning tea for fathers on Father's Day. Tell us about that.
Well, Patrick went to Yarra Valley,
yes.
And so did I, and a few of the guys on White Owl. So the school is great. They have an annual Father's Day breakfast, and this year they've always aligned with the charity, and they've given us a commitment moving forward that White Owl will be their charity. So it's just great to be able to go back to the school and talk about the work we're doing and the legacy we're leaving for Patrick. And we had quite a few dads come up afterwards and talk to us who'd like to get more involved, wanted to know more about the event, how they can support it. That's great. I mean, we've done a couple of corporate gigs now where the message is resonating. So I mean, if we just get the conversation started, that's really what White Owl's about: getting people talking about it, pushing the messaging out through their personal and professional networks as well, and just creating, I guess, a movement of change.
Well, thinking about attending a Father's Day breakfast at a school, what is the right age to start speaking to boys and girls, I guess, about this?
Look, I don't know, but I mean, it was interesting, being at the school with all the parents and their kids who are at school. The brief from the school was talk openly about it. And we did. We told them the history about White Owl and the statistics, and there might be a son or daughter there pushing their dad and saying, "Have you got yourself checked out, Dad? You're 40 plus. Are you doing something about it?" So,
do you tend to focus more on prostate cancer than suicide prevention?
Oh no, it's 50-50. Yeah, I mean, I think it's I guess with prostate cancer, it's very much go and get yourself checked out. These are the two options available to you. don't procrastinate, get it done.
Yes.
Whereas mental health is a bit more complex, I think, and there's a lot of different avenues that you can go down, which we explored earlier. So, no, it's very much a 50-50 arrangement. If you look at White Owl, probably 4 of the guys probably knew Nathan better than Patrick, and 4 knew Patrick better than Nathan. So it's just the way it's come together. We all knew Patrick and Nathan, but we're equally committed to both charity partners.
Ironically, you probably got to know them better after they'd passed away as well.
Unashamedly, it's a healing process for us to get involved. It was, the reason it started in the first place was as a feeling of helplessness, and could we have done more? What more can we do to make sure this doesn't happen to others? And that's what's driving us on now, is to the more positive reinforcement we get from our corporate partners and the people that attend the event. That's what fuels the ambition to take White Owl further. So we'll take it as far as we need to, as long as people keep supporting what we're doing.
Yeah. What do you think, Travis, is one of the biggest contributors to suicide outcomes in particular? And I'll talk about this because I want to talk about stigma, because I think that stigma plays such a big role in suicide and the prevention of suicide. But what about prostate cancer? Is there stigma attached to that as well?
I think it's around getting yourself tested. I think that there's still a stigma around that, and I guess that's what what Australian Prostate Centre is doing. If you look at the slogan on the side of the bus that they're taking around to the regional areas, it says a prostate test won't kill you. So get the test. It's a test. But the ramifications of not getting early detection are grave.
Yes.
It's one of the more treatable forms of cancer if it's detected early.
Yes.
But it killed 3,500 men in Australia last year. That's more men dying of prostate cancer than women died of breast cancer. It's a huge number.
I know. It makes me choke when I think about that, especially in men's issues advocacy, where I spend most of my time, is just, why doesn't everybody matter? And why can't we start spreading our resources and our funds in particular across everybody that needs it? But, I think isolating a gender because, we think that that's not needed, when in fact you're correct.
Look, it's an extremely competitive space, and there's so many great charities out there. But if I look at Australian Prostate Cancer Centre, for example, they don't get any government funding at all. So they are relying on philanthropic donations and the work of the likes of White Owl, and that's why we've got such a close association with them, because it makes such an impact when we raise money for them. Yeah.
Well, do you think now you've sort of created a little bit more space now with perhaps the demise of White Ribbon? Are they making some space? Again, speaking out of school probably, but, I think it's good to be able to now sort of look at where, our not-for-profits, look at how they're operating and the amount of resources and what they're actually contributing. And, you can speak very eloquently here today about White Owl and describe walking through the prostate cancer centre to see what you've contributed to, and actually get that visual on men on rowers post surgery.
And it keeps growing. The work they do down there is amazing. It's down there in the right in the precinct down in there in Royal Melbourne Hospital precinct, and there's a lot of physicians and and top oncologists that donate a lot of their time to help drive this centre. It's great. Yeah.
So, given your experience and now doing something about it, I'm not an advice person, but what guidance would you give to people? Number one, around given that 2 of your friends died, one of prostate cancer and one by suicide, around identifying perhaps signs and symptoms when somebody's not travelling okay?
Look, it is hard, and I think it's about staying connected. And I think blokes can be when you get together in a group, you banter about football, you're out playing sport and attending sporting events. But I think it's about taking the time and identifying individuals and just checking in and making sure they're okay. I mean, I think one of the things that I've found through the work in White Owl with depression and anxiety is just talking about it can make such a big difference.
Having somebody's back.
Just reaching out and talking to them, even if it's a text message, how you going. I think it's just taking the time for everyone just to be a little bit more mindful of the struggles that people may be going through, and being proactive in and not waiting for people to come to them, but actually putting your arm around them and reaching out to them as well.
And touching back on that stigma piece as well, it absolutely is okay to not be okay, and asking somebody, what does it feel like being you today, rather than what's wrong, what have you got, are you okay? Because the answer to that's yeah, good, yeah, good, yeah, good.
Yeah.
But really opening up that conversation and allowing that person the safety and security, and also the preservation of dignity and pride, is extraordinarily important. And that's not a gender specific thing, but in Australia, men are very proud and very stoic. And sometimes it's not about the words that you use, it's about, giving that person the feeling of being cared for, rather than being told.
Yep, totally agree.
It's really important. Now, you were, before we close the show off on the show today, Travis, can you believe it's been almost an hour?
That's a good chat.
It's a great chat. But you were hanging out down at Chadstone, was it yesterday?
Oh, Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Yes.
Another White Owl.
You've been looking at our social media.
I do my research. And but just another example of where White Owl is flying to.
Yeah, it was it was just a random request from a couple of ladies called Kalita and Gabrielle, who are setting up their own men's accessory business called Elitium, and they wanted to a
couple of models. Travis is a model. Anyone who wants to book him.
Very enthusiastic ladies, and it was their launch party, and they invited us along, and they said that they wanted to align themselves with the Men's Health Awareness Organisation, and so we went and chatted. I'd never been to a fashion show before. I certainly, but it was a unique experience. But we had a lot of people come up after the event wanting to get more involved. All our save the date flyers for our major event were taken, and it's just another part of. I guess never would have thought that that's where White Owl would have gone, but we're open to any direction that the people want to take this movement at the moment. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, before we sign off and Ken Lyons takes the reins, tell people again, Travis, where they can attend this year's White Owl event and how to get in contact.
Well, I think the easiest thing to do is just to go to our website, whiteowl.org.au. It's all, there's links there to our Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn pages. Our major events on Saturday the 23rd of June at Etihad Stadium. So it would be great to get people along there. It's limited to 300 people, so tickets will probably go on sale, I'd say, within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And that includes a game of footy?
It does.
Yep.
It does. Premium seating right there. So, it's always a good event. And then our corporate flyer will be available hopefully by the end of this week. And, if corporates want to get involved too, we've got a Give Easy donations page if people can't make the event but still want to contribute. But all those details are on the website. So jump on board and help us join the movement. So it'd be great.
Fantastic. Now, we also love feedback here at 3WBC, and for the show It's Okay to Not Be Okay, if you do have some feedback, you can visit my Facebook page, which is Presenting Rae Bonney. I also have a YouTube channel, so just type in Rae Bonney in YouTube and you'll find this show eventually, and many others like it. Compliments of Talk Hub, my good friend Scott Corman, who produces my show every week. Thank you, Scott. It's a great job that you do very selflessly. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.